Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you fine feathered individuals for bracket stage day one action at MSI. No time to catch their breath and turn things around. G2, send them right back out there. Pretty savage scheduling, but that's the nature. You're in the planned stage. I guess you get thrown right in as that second seed. We got the marquee matchup against GenG, and if you were staying up from Europe, you're seeing this first game and you're going, yep, here we go. It was a fluke in play-in. The boys are warmed up. Here they come for the upset.
You were saying, bedtime be damned. I'm staying up. I'm making my way through the series. The boys grabbed game one, and, a whole combination of sorts of things happening on the Rift. I think some strong play from G2 individually, aspects to look at within this first game. If you're paying attention, though, a lot of people would say it was a lot of mistakes, a lot of sloppiness, a lot of sluggishness maybe in some of the choices and reaction time on the GenG side. Very much plays into what we had heard heading into this matchup, that there had been some issues for GenG, that they have been, their jet lag getting over here. They haven't had time to set up and really get anything other than, I think, only one scrim match underway. So very much not the preparation that you would want to have heading into a matchup. Never mind one against a G2 who has had all the preparation, as many games as they really can have at this point to build up that experience at the event, to feel comfortable. And in that game one, you saw the result of that one, adding one to the G2 column. It was a very quick and, decisive response from GenG in that second game after having gone back, talking with the coaching staff, reapproaching things, getting maybe a little bit of fire under their seats, saying, let's turn it up again. And you saw that in that second game, combined with, I think, still some of these sloppiness and some of these mistakes that we have criticized G2 for over the course of the spring split.
And listen, G2, they had confident engages from multiple angles. They needed to win multiple fights in a row to actually finally get the gold lead in that first game. It was a difficult wall to even break through for GenG, and it did feel like it was almost GenG going, all right, let's see what you got. Let's see the best punch you can throw, G2. Okay, well, you won the game. We go back and talk to everybody, as you said, and then GenG comes back a different animal. It's like they completely downloaded G2 after that first game. It was just data farming that first game because it was just pick after pick, and the gold lead got pretty out of control in game two. Yeah, there were some mistakes for G2, but even a comeback seemed not likely, and then it gets even worse when you have we'll call it the Canyon style game, because I don't know if I've seen a more disrespectful play than canceling a mid-queue Lee Sin queue to go into a Rift Herald to drive around and go kill an Ezreal somewhere else. That was picturesque out of our boy.
That was nasty. Oh my God. What we saw from Canyon in this game three, the Lee Sin, we all know for sure that this is an extreme comfort pick for him, one he has had multiple runs of success with throughout the course of his career. And he adds another one to the list here against G2. Some really phenomenal individual plays. There's other issues within this third game outside of just Canyon being the demon that he was and going, to town on the rest of G2. You're looking at the top side, Broken Blade's performance, which was a weak point throughout the entirety, really, of this series, specifically in this third game, very costly in the individual head-to-head against Keen. And it's one of these classic miracle Keen performances where he doesn't do anything all that crazy, but he's not doing anything wrong. And he is just building up this advantage slowly but surely. And he had, I think at 20 minutes or so into the game, he already had himself a 2-level lead on top of Broken Blade, outside of everything that was about to come crumbling down with Canyon's Lee Sin.
Yeah, and that's obviously been a theme. Broken Blade falling behind, not having a great laning phase, not just against GenG, but against some of the weaker teams as well. And despite getting, let's face it, somewhat embarrassed by that Lee Sin, there's angles in Game 4 where G2 have pushed back. It's the closest game since the first game in the series, and really, obviously, the decisive play is deciding to go for a pick in the bot lane, but Caps and BB, they both have TP to contest this Baron. Skewmon gets caught out and dies for absolutely no reason. You know you have a 2v1 situation in the bottom lane. He should be playing way safer, so they actually have a smite and a 5v4 to contest this Baron, but it's really a ruler difference, and you really see in this fourth game a gap in the AD carries. You say ruler, make this Baron play, and on the other side, Hans Sama is Kai'Sa ulting into a wall that is Taliyah.
That is the painful end of Game 4 in the end of this series, is that play and that sequence of events that happens. And unfortunately, when you're watching and realizing and examining it, you go, that type of mistake, Skewmon getting caught out when you are making such a crucial play to set yourself up for a situation like that, an objective like Baron in that crucial moment within the game, within the series, to get caught out like that. That doesn't happen to the best of the best players. That doesn't happen to the best of the best, the world championship quality winning teams, the contenders or pretenders. That is the situation of this one. And I think very clearly the result and the answer from this is that GenG is absolutely a contender for every single championship title, trophy, whatever we want to call it, at any point in any event this year. And G2 is only a pretender at this type of point, making mistakes like that, having that type of check where you're going up against one of these amazing teams where it's, okay, Hans Sama, you got to go, and it's a ruler, it's a Gumayushi, it's someone else on the other side. And most of these times in these fights, I'm going to take that other guy at this point. And that's just an unfortunate reality of some of this track record that we have seen of this G2 roster.
And again, on the GenG side of things, it feels like they're coming in with such confidence for this event. And listen, they went 20-0. They should be pretty confident. But I really feel like that Hanwha series instilled in them, like, yeah, we're the best team in the LCK. And, years past, there's kind of been that pressure that, yeah, you're really good, but you actually need to win an event. And you've seen them play tentatively or a little, pump the brakes from what we're accustomed to seeing. You definitely did not see that in this series, even if there is some jet lag and, still easing into things. If that's the case, and this is like an 80% GenG, I'm sweating if I'm the rest of the bracket.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing, the number one takeaway for me from this series was that maybe GenG isn't going to be the perfect GenG that we have seen throughout the entirety of this spring split, the one that we have praised and talked so much about and hyped up for this event. But they're absolutely the GenG that can take a punch, that can make a mistake and respond to the coaching staff's insight, the analysis, and everything else, and come back with fire out on the Rift and put those performances together to take a series. So yes, if you're going to take a game, take your shot, take your best chance against GenG, but you better be coming with a little bit more if you're going for the whole series.
It's one game win for G2, a competitive Game 4, I'll give them. You have much confidence for them going down in the losers bracket? Because this format for MSI, even in the losers bracket, there's no gimme series. There's no free wins. There's no wildcard region that you're expecting to beat. Whoever G2 ends up facing is going to be a pretty damn good team.
I think that you've seen enough from G2 at this event, and wide ranging of it, of course, throughout the amount of games that they have been picking up through in the experience. You can have an angle to believe in this squad. And I think the way that you do that is focusing on that you have a lot of time to prepare for your next matchup at this point in time. It has been pretty rapid fire in all these series throughout the play-in stage, and then right away here, day one of the main group. Now you get a bit of time to breathe, a bit of time to and get some analysis through, make some changes, make different preparations and approach into it from a different mindset. And that might be the angle that you need to stay alive, to stay competitive within this tournament. Because otherwise, you're looking at a lot of these mistakes. And as you said, there's a lot of big, hungry fish that are going to be at this event. And I'm feeling like you might be a little bit of fish food for the big dogs here.
Either way, they need at least two guys to step up to reach what Caps put in this series, because my man definitely needs some help from either of his side lanes or Skewmon playing a little bit better. Caps cannot be carrying against these world-class teams at this event. This event overall so far, I know we're incredibly early, barely in the bracket stage, but I feel like we're already seeing positive signs. And coming into this, obviously, there was a lot of changes. First and foremost, the massive overhaul of the format with only best of fives fearless from the get-go. No best of one upsets, throws, anything like that, which I would say, based on how many game fives we got, big check so far on the format. Other big check, I know people were early on upset about the overlay changes, but I gotta say, it's actually pretty clean. And now that I've seen a few matches and my eyes actually know where to turn, where the kills pop up and where the damage numbers are, it does feel cleaner and like there is more space with this new format, or the new overlay.
I do like this overlay. I think, yeah, as you're right, it does provide a little bit more clarity within, maybe once you, again, have a little bit of familiarity with seeing where you're knowing to look for certain things, it can help. And I know you can say that about a lot of different overlay type of changes. I just think visually this one has been easier to adapt to in that type of regard. And yes, the formatting, the way that these matches are going and how it's scheduled out, this has been a wonderful MSI to get started by, of course, hosted in our beautiful country of Canada. But yes, I think this event has been very good. The fans have been very loud, very responsive, again, and still not even having the representatives of North America out there, the home representatives out on Summoner's Rift. So still very good fan responses. We're going to get to see that just a couple of hours here before FlyQuest and Anyone's Legend kick off the home team getting underway.
And they've done a great job with the teasers, highlighting the nature, the trees, the ocean around Vancouver, which of course it is famous for out there, as a lot of Canada is. And viewership-wise, I know West Coast of North America is far from ideal for the major viewership hubs. I know it's early or late, depending on where in Europe you are, and obviously the bulk of all these viewerships are going to be in China and Korea and Asia in general. And I know people were saying this might be the lowest viewed MSI event that we've had in recent years, but 1.13 million peak viewers for this G2 GenG series, which is pretty damn good. And I know we had 1.5 million peak for some T1 GenG matchups in the LCK, but this is bracket stage day one, and we're already eclipsing a million. And most importantly, T1 hasn't played yet.
Calling it, it's only been the appetizers. This has only been the first trip to the salad bar for everybody watching in on MSI. We're still waiting for the pizza. We're still waiting for the roast beef. We're getting the main course the next time around. That is what we're still waiting for, and I think that's where you're going to see an even bigger jump in viewership as well. The timing is always going to be an issue, right? Regardless of where you're going through and who is ending up with the short end of the stick as far as having to change your schedule, your routine around trying to maintain viewership. Not the best on the East Coast here in North America at this point in time, getting to that time zone later on and whatnot, but it still has been a good viewing experience for this MSI, and I'm happy and looking forward to our big match, a big showdown here at the end of the day between Anyone's Legend and FlyQuest.
And listen, any of these international events, you can never hit a sweet spot. There's a lot of time zones on the planet, guys. It's impossible to be ideal for everybody. I think Riot has just been lucky, and less so lucky and more, it's been strategic that even some of these, most of the international events are somewhere in Asia, or if they're in Europe, they can kind of finagle so it's okay, manageable in Europe, and still ideal viewing times for over in Korea and China. But what can you do when it's West Coast? So it's as good as it can have been. And even, listen, Casual's averaging like 100K viewers, I think, throughout the play-in stage as the co-stream. So obviously, more and more data and stats are going to come flooding in for all these viewership. And again, the big names haven't even hit the Rift, and we're not at elimination matches yet. That's when there's an extra spike in viewership, and especially if, like in the G2 series, a Western team can get a win early in the series, then all of a sudden people are going, oh, maybe this is a series worth watching, even if they end up losing 3 in a row.
It does have a factor on it, and I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier as well. The T1 fan base getting
that's the biggest buff. Yep,
numbers. That'll be a big hitter, and especially knowing that we're getting, as I mentioned before, we've got FlyQuest Anyone's Legend today. Right up after that one is going to be the bonanza day of having not only T1 out there, but you're gonna get the hometown boy. We're getting our guy Jojo Pyun playing on Canadian soil. Very happy to see that one, and then again is going to be quite an environment to see, so make sure you're tuning in on that one and on that day, guys.
We're about to see the crowds be a lot louder for FlyQuest or when JoJo hits the Rift, but it is the North American top seed that are going to be hitting up there first. So we got to check in on our Hopium Levels before they've played a single game at the tournament, matching up against that top seed from the LPL. Neither squad here have, world-beating early game leads that we've seen throughout the majority of Split 2. Not to say they can't snowball a game, but pre-15 minutes is not really when they're completely blowing things out of sorts. One of the crazy stats, and we know the LTA plays so many less games, but 2025, Anyone's Legend has played 64 games total. FlyQuest has played 29. Less than half as many games.
Not good. Not as much preparation as you'd want to have in a situation in that specific examination of a head-to-head. I flip-flopped all over the place last night on where my Hopium level was for this one, depending on what I was focusing on, whether I was going in on the positives that I know and like about the FlyQuest team, or if I was then refreshing myself about the dangers that await on the side of Anyone's Legend and how proven they have been throughout the LPL in this, last year and a half type of run. And if you want to go even further than that, we'll focus in on Coach Tabe and what he has done throughout his career, going back RNG, BLG, and now here with Anyone's Legend, the Panda Samurai making the international debut. Very happy to see that one. We're going to have a heck of a matchup. Either way you slice it down, because I'm very much seeing these two different angles. Either it plays out very much like how you would expect looking strictly on paper. It goes by, okay, what did you do domestically? How did you play? And how is that going to match up against these guys and how they played domestically? Smash them together type of thing. Or is it simply going to boil down to the individual players and that individual head-to-head type of matchups? And there is no shortage of them within this game that you can go into. And the biggest one, of course, that jumps out on the page is Inspired versus Tarzan in the jungle. What type of creativity we are going to have. You have one of the best, most creative, and most adaptable minds that we have ever seen within the LCS and the LEC in the time before, up against Tarzan, someone that has struggled in the biggest of moments, that has is plagued by a shadow of international disappointment as well, the most last time around, but has been the most dominant domestic jungler within the LPL, unquestioned, I think, over the last 2 years or so. Very much excited about that head-to-head.
Yeah, and listen, both those junglers coming out with not exactly a pocket pick, but off-meta carry champion to secure titles. Obviously, the Zed for Tarzan and then the Kazakhs for Inspired. And I know individual picks are not nearly as important in this world of fearless draft, but heading into this matchup, the most banned champion against FlyQuest, more than 50%, half their games, is the Cassiopeia for Quad, which is a little bit of a pocket pick, not that common, so that's something to look out for. And then both Hope and Masu, most played champion is Varus, so you know that's going to be a contested one that probably goes early on in this series, getting picked on one of the sides.
I think when you look at Masu and Hope, you can find a lot of similarities within that champion pool and the preference. Certainly for a lot of these more maybe utility ADCs, right? You're providing something else other than just the damage in these type of situations. I think both of them, Ashe, the Varus, and then to a more extreme extent to Senna, you can throw them both into that type of category. I think as well, you can look at the top side, this type of matchup that you have between Bwipo and Flandre, and the experience that has been there for both of these guys. Whippo, as we know, is one that has a more unique, a more pocketed type of champion pool, looking to break and change things up, take something from a long time ago, whatever. You're gonna have to go a really long time ago to get something that Flandre hasn't experienced. He hasn't played through whatever type of meta at that point. He might not be the sharpest or the very best of the best coming from the LPL in that regard, but there does have to be some respect given over that he has been there. He has stayed there within the LPL and within that top level of top lane play. So very much so looking at that matchup as well when we're heading into this series.
And more so than being the carry guy who's going to take over a game, Flandre is the great neutralizer. We've seen it against Bin. He's just going to, a guy like Whippo, some crazy picks. Flandre's going to go, great, give me Sion, give me Yorick, give me something I can just chill. I'm not going to die to you. You're not going to take over the game. We're just kind of mashing out and evening out in this top lane. But the reason my Hopium is nearing overdose levels and why I think FlyQuest actually win this series is because they are the only team at this event in the same time zone. They don't have to move at all. They're going from LA up to Vancouver. There's no jet lag. If there's any time to take advantage of that opportunity, it's your first game on the Rift before the other teams are adapted.
Now, I will say, I don't think that's necessarily helped North America in the past as far as when we've had Worlds here, looking at some of these results and whatnot.
Well, it's equal. Now you have pressure because you're the home team, so...
I'll accept it. I will take that angle. I'll take any positivity I can get for FlyQuest at this point. Again, I think this one is actually relatively close, and depending on what lens you're focusing in on, what you're more so reading into before this game, will depend on how you're feeling about it and who is going to be the favorite in this one. And again, saying that on the approach to this matchup, we could very well find ourselves with a very definitive answer at the end of this series.
And again, make no mistake, even if FlyQuest do come away with the series, are competitive, it's an upset. Anyone's Legend will be the favorites coming in here, despite being the lesser known commodity of the LPL squads, despite being the champion. If you watch any of the games, they should be favorites, but I just feel like FlyQuest are going to be here, have something to prove. But again, Hopium levels are too high because they haven't played a game yet on the Rift. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute gorgeous individuals. Thanks for hanging, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.